The universe was silent when Ryan's ship tore through the edge of a blue nebula. He had been alone for 6 months, exploring sectors no one else dared to enter. His small ship, the Horizon, was meant for survey missions, not deep space storms. But Ryan wanted to see what was beyond the maps. The stars had always called to him since he was a child on Earth. Now they were both his dream and his danger. The warning lights blinked red across the control panels. A strange wave of energy struck the hull, shaking the ship like a leaf in the wind. Ryan gripped the chair tightly and tried to stabilize the thrusters, but the gravitational storm pulled harder. The navigation systems flickered and died. Alarms screamed through the cabin. He hit the emergency landing sequence, but the planet below was only a blur of white and ice. The ship entered the frozen atmosphere, heat shields burning bright orange as it fell. Ryan's eyes narrowed against the flashing lights. He felt the ship twist and roll. The impact came hard. The Horizon hit the ground with a thunderous crash that echoed across the silent wasteland. The world outside was endless snow and frozen peaks. Inside, Ryan's world turned dark for a moment as he was thrown against the console. When he woke, his head throbbed. The cabin was cold and dim. The main power was gone, and the air felt heavy with frost. He pushed himself up and checked the suit monitor. Oxygen levels were dropping, and temperature warnings flashed on his wrist screen. The ship had a hole torn through the rear section. If he stayed inside too long, he would freeze to death. Ryan took a deep breath and forced himself to move. He grabbed the emergency heat pack and a small scanner, then stepped out through the cracked hatch. The icy wind hit him like knives. The sky above was pale and endless, filled with slow-moving snow clouds. The ground was covered in thick layers of ice that glowed faintly in the light of a nearby moon. He could see no sign of life, no movement at all. Only silence. He needed shelter and power. The survival protocol told him to find resources, but this planet seemed empty. As he checked the surroundings, his scanner picked up something strange. A faint energy signal blinked on the screen, about 300 meters north. It wasn't part of his ship. It was foreign. It was weak, like the last heartbeat of a dying machine. Ryan frowned. A distress signal? Out here? Curiosity and instinct drove him forward. He walked across the frozen ground, boots crunching softly in the snow. The temperature kept dropping. The wind grew stronger, biting through his suit. After 20 minutes of climbing icy ridges, he saw something half buried in the frost. It was a metallic pod, smooth and silver, shaped like a seed. The surface was cracked, and strange blue light pulsed faintly from inside. Ryan brushed away the snow and found a small glass panel. Through it, he saw a figure inside the pod. It was not human. The body was slender, with light blue skin that shimmered faintly under the frost. Silver hair floated around the face, and a thin circlet rested on the head. The figure looked peaceful but weak, as if sleeping too long in the cold. He quickly ran his hands across the pod, searching for a control panel. He found one on the side, though the markings were in a language he didn't recognize. His translator device couldn't read it. The temperature warning on his wrist blinked again. He didn't have time to study it. Using a laser cutter, he forced open a small section of the pod. Steam hissed out as the internal seal broke. The blue light faded and the figure inside shifted slightly. She was alive. Ryan reached in and lifted her out carefully. She was lighter than he expected. Her breathing was shallow, almost too slow. He could feel her skin cold as ice even through his gloves. Without thinking twice, he wrapped her in a thermal blanket and started back toward his ship. The storm above was growing darker, and the wind howled through the valley. It took all his strength to carry her across the snow. By the time he reached the Horizon, his arms were numb. He dragged the hatch closed and sealed it with a manual lock. The temperature inside had dropped below freezing. He activated the emergency heater and placed the alien woman near it. Slowly, color began to return to her cheeks, a faint pink blending with her blue skin. Her eyelids trembled. Then she opened her eyes. Ryan stepped back. Her eyes were bright silver, glowing softly in the dim cabin. She blinked a few times and focused on him. Her voice came out weak and uncertain. "Be quiet, human. Don't move." Ryan froze, confused. Her accent was strange, but the translator caught enough to make sense. She looked around with sharp, cautious eyes, then shivered as the cold hit her again. Her thin suit was torn in several places. She tried to sit up, but her strength failed. She gasped softly, teeth chattering. "We're freezing. Get closer now." Ryan hesitated. He didn't fully understand, but he could see she was right. The heater wasn't enough, and the cold from the broken walls crept in fast. He took another blanket and wrapped it around them both. He sat beside her, careful not to frighten her. She didn't push him away. Instead, she leaned closer, shivering less as the warmth began to spread. For a while, neither spoke. The only sound was the soft hum of the heater and the whisper of the storm outside. Ryan studied her face. She had delicate features and faint glowing lines along her temples like living patterns of light. She looked fragile, but something about her posture, even in weakness, spoke of pride and authority. He wondered who she was. After some minutes, her breathing grew steadier. She opened her eyes again and looked at him. "You saved me," she said quietly. "Why?" Ryan shrugged. "Because you needed help. That's reason enough." She seemed surprised by the answer. "You are human," she said slowly, as if testing the word. "Your kind should not be here. This world lies beyond your borders." Ryan smiled faintly. "My ship didn't plan to come here either. It crashed." He pointed at the damaged walls. "You're lucky I found you before the cold did." She frowned but said nothing. Her gaze moved around the cabin, studying every detail. She saw the broken instruments, the cracked ceiling, the frost forming along the floor. Then she looked back at him, her silver eyes calm but thoughtful. "You may call me Mira," she said at last. "I am, or was, of the Zarathian royal line." Ryan blinked. The name meant nothing to him. "Royal line?" he asked. "So you're a princess?" She gave a small nod. "Exiled. Lost." Her voice softened. "I was left to die on this world." Ryan sat quietly for a moment. He didn't know what to say. The galaxy was full of strange stories, but this one felt different. He looked at her with new respect. "Then we're both stranded here," he said. "But we'll find a way out." Mira tilted her head slightly, studying his face. There was something in his tone that made her curious. Most species she knew would have bowed or tried to use her title for advantage. This human, however, spoke to her like an equal. "You speak with confidence," she said. "Yet your ship is broken, your body weak and your world far away." Ryan chuckled softly. "Maybe. But humans don't give up easily." She looked at him for a long moment, then closed her eyes again. "We will see," she murmured. Outside, the storm grew stronger. The ice wind howled, shaking the ship again. Ryan checked the systems, trying to restore partial power. The energy core was unstable, but he managed to get the lights back on. The temperature rose slightly. Mira watched him work, her eyes following every motion. She was used to advanced machines that obeyed voice commands, not humans fixing things with tools and patience. She could not understand why this human helped her without knowing who she was. In her empire, kindness always came with cost. Yet this man risked his warmth and supplies for her without asking anything. She found that strange, and somehow, comforting. When Ryan finished, he turned to her. "You should rest," he said. "Tomorrow I'll check if any part of the ship can still fly." Mira nodded slowly, still unsure what to think. "You are different from the humans I was told about," she whispered. "You may survive longer than I expected." Ryan smiled and leaned back against the wall. "I'll take that as a compliment." The storm outside continued to rage, but inside the broken ship, two lives that should never have met shared a small circle of warmth. One was a human explorer, the other, an exiled alien princess. Both were lost, both alone, and neither yet knew that their meeting would change the fate of two worlds. Morning came slowly to the frozen world. The storm outside had calmed, leaving a silent white plain that stretched far into the distance. Inside the broken ship, the air was warmer than before. The emergency heater hummed quietly, and faint sunlight shone through the cracked window. Ryan woke first, rubbing his eyes and checking the systems. Power was still low, oxygen limited, and communication offline. Yet he felt a little hope. He was alive, and so was the strange alien he had rescued. Mira was already awake. She sat near the small heater, her silver eyes focused on the glowing light. Her pale blue skin looked less fragile now, and her movements were stronger. She turned when Ryan approached, her tone calm but curious. "Your machine is loud," she said. "Does it not rest?" Ryan smiled. "It keeps us warm. I'd rather it stay loud than let us freeze again." She tilted her head slightly. "You depend on small tools for survival. Humans are strange. My people used to say your kind survives by stubbornness more than wisdom." Ryan laughed lightly. "Maybe that's true, but it works." He opened a ration pack and offered her some food. She looked at it with hesitation, then frowned. "What is this?" "It smells like iron. It's called protein paste. Not great, but it keeps you alive," Andy said. Mira took it carefully. She sniffed it, then took a small bite. Her face tightened. "This is terrible," she said bluntly. Ryan chuckled. "I warned you." After some time, she finished it anyway. Hunger defeated her pride. Ryan noticed the faint lines of light running along her neck and arms. They seemed to brighten slightly after eating. He pointed at them. "What are those?" "They are energy veins," she explained. "Our bodies use plasma energy instead of blood. It allows us to move faster and live longer than most species. But on this frozen world, the flow weakens." Ryan nodded slowly. "Then we need to fix the ship fast before your strength fades again." She watched him for a moment, her gaze thoughtful. "You risk much for someone you just met," she said quietly. "Why?" Ryan shrugged. "Because it's the right thing to do. And besides, I don't plan on staying here forever. I need a partner if we're going to survive." The word partner seemed to surprise her. She had never heard a human speak so directly to a princess, even an exiled one. In her world, everyone bowed or obeyed without question. This man treated her as an equal, something she had not felt in a long time. For hours, they worked side by side, repairing what they could. Ryan crawled under panels to reconnect energy lines while Mira studied the alien control system still running from her own pod. Her people's technology was more advanced than human designs, using energy crystals rather than circuits. She explained the basics, and Ryan listened carefully, amazed by her knowledge. At one point, a spark flew from a cable and burned Ryan's glove. He pulled his hand back with a quick shout. Mira rushed to him, her expression tense. "You are hurt?" she asked. "It's fine," he said, shaking his hand. "Just a small burn." She frowned and touched his hand gently. A faint blue glow spread from her fingers, cooling the skin. The pain vanished almost instantly. Ryan looked at her, surprised. "Energy control," she said softly. "A basic skill of my kind. You humans rely too much on machines when your own bodies could do more." Ryan grinned. "Maybe we'll learn from you." She gave a small, almost amused smile. "If my people ever allow it." After several hours, they managed to restore partial communication. The transmitter flickered weakly, but the range was short. Ryan tried sending a message toward human space, yet the signal faded before leaving orbit. He sighed and hit the panel lightly. "No luck," he said. "We'll need a stronger power source." Mira stepped forward. "There is one near my crashed pod. A core crystal. It powered my escape pod before it failed. If we can recover it, your signal might reach beyond this world." Ryan nodded. "Then we'll get it. But the storm might return soon. We need to move before it does." They packed supplies, thermal suits, and a small sled for carrying the crystal. Before leaving, Ryan checked the radar. There was no movement nearby, no sign of other life. Yet something in Mira's eyes told him she feared more than the cold. They stepped outside. The sky was bright now, the clouds drifting apart to reveal a faint sun. The snow crunched under their boots as they made their way toward the crash site. Mira walked with surprising grace despite the rough terrain. Her steps were light, leaving almost no mark on the snow. Ryan followed, curious about how she moved so easily. "Your body handles the cold better than mine," he said. "Zarathian blood runs warm even in ice," she replied. "But this planet is different. The air here steals heat faster than most worlds." They reached the wreck of her pod after an hour of walking. It was half buried under a thick layer of ice. Ryan used a plasma cutter to melt through the frozen shell. Inside, they found shattered metal and glowing fragments. Mira searched quickly until she found a small blue crystal about the size of a human heart. It pulsed gently like it was alive. "This is it," she said. "The royal core." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "Royal core? Sounds valuable." "It is. Only those of royal blood can control it. That is why my enemies left it with me. They believed it would die when I did." Her voice grew cold. "They thought exile would be enough to erase me." Ryan said nothing, sensing the pain behind her calm tone. He helped her lift the core onto the sled. The light from it reflected off the snow, casting long shadows. As they began their journey back, Mira spoke again, her voice distant. "My people once ruled over many stars. We built cities that floated among the clouds and towers that touched the light of suns. But power makes even the wise blind. When humans appeared beyond our borders, my council feared you. They believed your kind would spread like fire. I tried to reason with them, but they called me weak." Ryan listened quietly. "And they exiled you because you wanted peace?" "Yes, I refused to start another war." She looked at the white horizon. "They destroyed my fleet and sent me into space alone. I was supposed to die before reaching any world." Ryan looked at her with respect. "Then you did the right thing. Standing against power takes courage." She turned to him, surprised again. "Most would call it foolish." "Maybe," he said, "but it's the kind of foolish the galaxy needs." For a while, they walked in silence. The wind was calmer now, but the temperature dropped quickly as clouds returned. Mira's strength began to fade again, the glow on her veins dimming. Ryan noticed and quickened the pace. When she stumbled, he caught her arm. "I can walk," she said, her pride clear even in weakness. "I know," he said, steadying her, "but you don't have to do it alone." Something in his voice made her chest tighten, a feeling she didn't understand. No one had ever said that to her before. By the time they returned to the ship, the wind had started to rise again. Ryan secured the sled inside and connected the crystal to the ship's energy grid. The systems hummed back to life. Lights glowed brighter, heaters warmed faster, and the transmitter showed a stronger signal. Ryan grinned. "It's working." Mira smiled faintly but remained quiet. Her gaze was on the radar screen, where a faint moving dot appeared far to the north. Her expression darkened. "What is it?" Ryan asked. "A Zarathian hunter signal," she said. "They must have traced the crystal's energy." "They are coming." Ryan's smile faded. "How long before they get here?" "Hours at most," he thought quickly. "Then we'll have to hide the ship and cut power once we send the message." Mira nodded, her eyes steady again. "You should send your distress signal first. It might reach your people. But understand this, human. If they find us before help arrives, they will not show mercy." Ryan met her gaze firmly. "Then we'll make sure they don't find us." The ship vibrated as the wind outside grew stronger again. Snow began to fall in heavy sheets, covering the wreck like a blanket. Mira and Ryan worked together to camouflage the hull, covering it with thermal shields and scattering ice dust to block sensors. Every movement had to be perfect. When they finished, the ship looked like a frozen hill under the storm. Inside, the lights dimmed to minimum. Ryan activated the transmitter and sent the message toward human space. The signal pulsed once, twice, then faded into static. "Now we wait," he said quietly. Mira sat across from him, her eyes reflecting the faint blue glow of the core. "You do not fear death," she said. Ryan smiled tiredly. "I've faced it before, but I'm not planning to meet it today." For a long moment, neither spoke. Outside, the storm raged again, hiding them beneath the snow. Inside, two survivors from distant worlds sat together, waiting for whatever would come next. Mira looked at Ryan, a human she had once been told was reckless and dangerous, and began to wonder if everything she had believed about humans was wrong. The hunt had begun, but so had something else. A fragile trust born in the cold silence of an alien world. The storm lasted through the night. The wind screamed across the frozen hills, throwing ice against the ship's surface. Inside, the small heater hummed weakly, fighting the cold. Ryan sat near the control panel watching the radar. The tiny moving dot that Mira had seen earlier was still there, now closer than before. It blinked with steady rhythm, a mark of an incoming ship. Mira stood beside him, her silver eyes fixed on the screen. Her calm expression did not hide the tension in her posture. "They have locked onto the energy trail from the core," she said. Zerathian hunters never stop once they begin the chase. Ryan glanced at her. Then we need a plan. Can your people track through storms? Yes, she answered. Their sensors are stronger than anything you carry. But storms can delay them if we hide well. He thought for a moment. Then we use the storm to our advantage. We stay quiet, cut all heat, and wait it out. Mira nodded slowly. It might work. But they will not give up easily. They were sent to make sure I never return to my world. Ryan turned toward her. Why would your own people do that? You said you wanted peace. That doesn't sound like a reason to kill someone. She looked away, her voice softer now. My council feared what peace with humans would bring. They believed unity with your kind would weaken our rule. They called it betrayal. They called me a danger. Ryan leaned back, shaking his head. That's not right. You were trying to stop war, not cause it. Mira gave a sad smile. Kindness is often seen as weakness among rulers. The storm howled louder outside, making the walls tremble. Ryan moved to check the outer sensors, but the power flickered. The ship's lights dimmed for a second before returning. Mira frowned. They are close enough to interfere with our systems, she said. Their scanners are touching the upper atmosphere. Ryan's heartbeat quickened. Then it's time to hide for real. He powered down the heater and turned off the main systems. The interior of the ship sank into near darkness. Only the faint blue glow of the royal core remained, casting shadows across their faces. Mira took a deep breath and closed her eyes. Her glowing veins dimmed, reducing her body's energy signal. Ryan whispered, Can they sense your energy too? Yes, but I can lower it for a short time, she replied. It is not easy. The next few hours felt endless. The storm outside roared, covering the ship in layers of snow and ice. Ryan sat still, barely breathing, listening to the faint hum of the core. Mira sat across from him, her eyes closed, her breathing slow and controlled. At one point, Ryan thought he heard a faint sound above them, like engines passing through the sky. He held his breath. Mira's eyes opened, sharp and alert. They are scanning, she whispered. The air filled with a low vibration. It passed through the ship, shaking loose bits of frost from the ceiling. Ryan could feel the energy sweeping through the metal. He clenched his fists, hoping their camouflage was enough. After a few seconds, the vibration faded. They didn't see us, Mira said quietly. Not yet. Ryan exhaled slowly. Then we just have to wait until they leave. But the hunters did not leave quickly. Their ships hovered high above, sending out repeating sweeps. Hours passed before the radar finally showed them moving away. Mira stood and walked to the window, brushing frost off the glass. Through the thin crack, she saw faint lights vanishing into the white clouds. They are heading north, she said. They think we move that way. Ryan smiled faintly. Then we fooled them. Mira nodded, though her eyes remained worried. For now. They will search again. They know I am alive. Ryan turned to the console and began working. If we can boost the signal again, maybe we can get help before they come back. He connected the core directly to the communication array. Sparks flew as the current surged, and the transmitter flickered to life. Mira stood beside him, watching as he tuned the frequencies. Will your people hear it this time? She asked. I hope so, Ryan said. If I can reach the patrol line, someone might pick it up. He pressed the button and sent a coded message repeating his name, coordinates, and a distress tag. The signal flashed across the screen, bouncing through layers of interference. After several tries, the screen showed a faint confirmation. Something had received it. Ryan smiled. We did it. Someone got the message, but before they could celebrate, the radar beeped again. A new signal appeared, smaller than before, but closer. Mira stared at it and her expression hardened. That is not your rescue. That is a scout. Ryan's hand went to the side control. They came back? Or they never left, she said. One ship stayed behind to check. Outside, the wind began to shift. The storm clouds broke apart, revealing clearer skies. Ryan knew that meant the storm's protection would soon vanish. Their hiding place would be exposed. Mira stepped closer to the control panel. If they find us, they will not warn the others. They will destroy everything at once. Ryan took a deep breath. Then we need to make sure they don't. He grabbed a toolkit and opened the outer hatch. The wind hit him hard, cold and sharp. Snow whipped across his face, but he pushed forward. Mira followed him, her cloak flapping behind her. Together they climbed the small ridge that overlooked the frozen valley. From there they could see the scout ship in the distance, a dark shape gliding low over the snow, searching with bright beams of light. Ryan knelt behind an ice boulder, studying its movement. "They're sweeping the area slowly," he said. "If we can block their sensors, maybe they'll pass by." Mira pointed toward the ground. "This planet has mineral veins beneath the surface. They scatter energy signals. If we move near that cliff, the rock might hide us," Ryan nodded. They moved carefully down the slope, keeping low. The light from the scout ship grew brighter, sweeping across the landscape. They reached the cliff and crouched beneath an overhang just as the beam passed above them. Mira closed her eyes again, reducing her glow to nothing. The scout ship hovered closer, its engines humming like thunder. Ryan could see its shadow sliding over the snow. He gripped the edge of the cliff tightly, his heart pounding. The beam paused for a moment, then moved away. The scout turned and began to rise, heading back toward the clouds. Mira opened her eyes slowly and whispered, "They are leaving." Ryan let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. That was close. Mira looked at him, her eyes soft. "You risked much by stepping outside. You could have stayed hidden." He smiled slightly. "If I stayed, they might have found us anyway. Sometimes action saves more than waiting." She studied him for a moment. "Humans act before they think. Yet somehow it works for you." Ryan chuckled. "Most of the time." They returned to the ship as the sun began to set behind the mountains. The sky turned deep blue and stars started to appear one by one. Inside, Ryan restarted the heater and checked the systems again. The distress message continued to pulse through space. Mira sat quietly watching him work. The way he moved, focused, determined, never giving up, reminded her of the leaders her people once admired. She had met many warriors and scholars, but few had his spirit. "Ryan," she said after a while, "your kind has been called reckless, emotional, and fragile by many empires, yet you face danger with courage." "Why?" Ryan looked up from the panel. "Because life is worth fighting for. Even if the odds are bad, giving up is worse." She nodded slowly. "Perhaps that is what my people never understood. They valued perfection over heart." Silence settled between them again, peaceful this time. The ship hummed softly as systems stabilized. Outside, the sky cleared completely, revealing a full view of the frozen plains under starlight. Ryan stood and looked out the small window. "It's strange," he said. "Even in a place like this, the stars look beautiful." Mira joined him, her silver eyes reflecting the light. "Stars have always been symbols of hope," she said quietly. "Even for those who are exiled." Ryan turned to her. "You're not alone anymore. Whatever happens next, we'll face it together." Her gaze met his. For a brief moment, she saw not just a human, but a reminder of what she had once believed, that peace between worlds was possible. Then the radar beeped again. Ryan looked down and froze. Several new signals had appeared on the screen, far stronger than before. Mira's face grew pale. "The main fleet," she whispered. "They have found us." Ryan clenched his jaw. "Then we need to move before they land." Mira's eyes shone with both fear and determination. "If they capture me, they will destroy your ship too. They cannot know a human saved me." Ryan looked at the storm clouds building again on the horizon. "Then we make our stand before they arrive." He turned to the control panel and began preparing the ship for defense, rerouting power and sealing the outer hatches. Mira stood beside him, her hand resting on the glowing core. "You saved me once," she said softly. "Now I will help save you." Outside, the distant roar of engines grew louder. The hunters were coming. Inside the small frozen ship, a human and an exiled princess prepared to fight not for survival alone, but for something greater, the hope that two worlds might one day stand side by side instead of against each other. The frozen world stretched endlessly beneath the stars, white and unforgiving. The hunters' fleet was closing fast, their dark shapes moving like shadows across the snow-covered plains. Inside the small ship, Ryan and Mira worked tirelessly, preparing for what might be the most dangerous hours of their lives. Ryan crouched over the damaged control panel, rerouting power from secondary systems to the main engines. Sparks flew as he connected loose wires, and the faint hum of the ship's systems began to grow stronger. "The engines will hold for a short jump," he said, "but if we stay too long, we risk freezing completely." Mira stood nearby, her eyes fixed on the radar screen. "We cannot fight them directly," she said. "Even with the Royal Corps, they outnumber us. Our only chance is to escape and hide until help arrives." Ryan nodded. "Then we prepare for a sudden launch. We'll use the storm as cover and aim for the canyon ridge. The ice formations might block their sensors. Mira studied him. You are clever, human. I underestimated your creativity. Ryan smiled faintly. You've underestimated humans before, Princess. I've learned to accept it. The storm began to pick up again, snow whipping against the ship's hull. Ryan checked the hull sensors. Ice was already forming on the outer panels. We don't have much time, he said. We either leave now or risk being trapped. Mira placed a hand on the royal core, which glowed softly in response. This core can give us extra power to make the jump, she said. But using it drains my energy. I will become weaker, and my body cannot handle long exposure afterward. Ryan hesitated. You can't risk your life for this. We'll find another way. She shook her head. If we do not act, we will be destroyed. You have helped me survive once. Now I will ensure you survive as well. He studied her face. Determination shone in her silver eyes, and he knew she would not back down. Then we do it together, he said. Carefully, Mira connected the crystal core to the ship's energy conduits. The power surged immediately, filling the ship with a bright blue light. Ryan felt the heat and energy radiate through the metal floors. Systems that had been offline flickered to life. The engines roared, and the shields activated at full capacity. We're ready, Ryan said, gripping the control stick tightly. Now we wait for the right moment. Minutes passed. The storm outside hid the distant fleet, covering their movement and masking the ship's energy signature. Ryan watched the radar, noting the positions of the hunters. Mira monitored the crystal, her breathing slow and controlled. Each pulse of energy from the core weakened her slightly, but she did not complain. Suddenly, the first scout ship appeared above them. Its bright beam swept the snow, searching for any trace of the hidden vessel. Ryan held his breath and moved the ship slightly behind a cluster of jagged ice pillars. The scout passed by, missing them completely. They did not see us, Mira whispered. For now. Ryan nodded. We use this moment to move. He powered the engines to low thrust and began sliding the ship across the frozen valley. The ice below groaned under the pressure, but the hull held. Snow whipped around them and the storm grew stronger, hiding their escape from the fleet above. Mira's hands rested on the crystal, glowing softly. The jump will require full power, she said. Once we engage, hold tightly. The energy will surge through the hull. You may feel it in your bones. Ryan clenched his teeth. I've handled worse. The canyon ridge approached. Jagged ice walls rose on either side, casting long shadows. Ryan maneuvered the ship carefully, weaving through the ice formations. One wrong move and the hull could crack. Behind them, the faint lights of the hunter's fleet grew closer. Mira's voice was calm, almost steady. Now, human, engage the jump. Ryan pressed the final sequence. The ship trembled violently as the royal core unleashed its energy. Blue light filled the cabin, illuminating every corner. The force pressed against their bodies, but the ship lifted off the frozen surface. Ryan held tightly as the hull groaned under the strain. Outside, the canyon walls blurred as the ship surged forward. The jump carried them beyond the immediate detection of the fleet. For a moment they were in silence, floating in the stormy sky above the ice world. Mira leaned back, her body weak but glowing softly. You did well, she said, her voice quiet. We are not safe yet, but we have moved beyond immediate danger. Ryan looked at her. You risked too much with that core. How do you feel? She smiled faintly. We all take risks. You saved my life once. It is only fair I save yours in return. The storm below began to fade as they rose above the clouds. Ryan activated the navigation system and set a course for the nearest canyon network, a place he hoped would offer long-term shelter. Mira studied the map displayed on the console. The terrain is difficult, she said, but your skills and our speed may allow us to evade further detection. They flew through the narrow canyon valleys, careful to avoid open areas. The hunter's fleet could appear at any moment, and Mira's knowledge of the landscape gave them an advantage. Ryan maneuvered expertly, weaving between cliffs and ice formations. Each movement was precise, balancing speed with stealth. Hours passed. The ship moved silently, and the hunters seemed unaware of their exact location. Ryan glanced at Mira, who was growing weaker as the energy from the royal core drained her. "We cannot keep using the core at this rate," he said. She shook her head. "I can survive short bursts, but soon you must find another way to signal your people. I cannot continue at full power." Ryan nodded. "Then we plan carefully. We only use it when necessary." As night fell over the frozen world, the stars appeared above the canyon peaks. Ryan and Mira sat quietly in the cabin, the hum of the engines the only sound. The storm below had faded, leaving a cold calm. Mira leaned back, her silver eyes reflecting the faint light of the core. "You are a strange human," she said softly. "So young, yet so determined. Your people may be weaker in strength than Zarathians, but your courage is greater than most." Ryan looked at her and smiled. "Courage is not about strength, it is about standing up when it matters, no matter the odds." Mira studied him, her eyes thoughtful. "Perhaps that is why I survived. You reminded me that not all life is cruel or selfish. Humans may yet have worth in this galaxy." The calm lasted only a short time. The radar beeped faintly. A new fleet signature appeared on the edge of the display. Mira's eyes widened slightly. "They have found us again," she said. Ryan gripped the controls. "Then we move again. This time we make sure they cannot follow." Mira nodded, gathering her strength. "We use the canyon network. The cliffs will hide our signature, and I can guide the energy flow to confuse their sensors." The ship moved carefully through the winding valleys. Mira's hands glowed faintly as she directed the crystal's energy through the hull. Outside, the canyon walls reflected and scattered the energy, creating false signals on the hunter's sensors. Ryan navigated with precision, avoiding areas that could expose them. Hours of careful maneuvering passed. The hunters grew frustrated, scanning areas with no result. Finally, Ryan found a hidden plateau above the canyon, a flat area surrounded by ice cliffs. "This is it," he said. "We can hide here and wait for help." Mira nodded, her energy almost spent. "It is safe for now, but we must rest. Your people may answer, but the time will be short." They landed carefully, securing the ship and sealing all heat vents. Inside, Ryan reactivated minimal systems, just enough to maintain life support. Mira sat beside the royal core, exhausted but calm. "You have done well, human," she said softly. "You risked everything to protect me. I will remember this." Ryan smiled tiredly. "And I will remember that I saved a princess from an empire that wanted her dead. Somehow it feels like more than survival." Outside, the frozen world stretched endlessly, silent under the stars. Inside the small ship, two lives, human and alien, sat together, preparing for the final hours before rescue. Their courage and determination had brought them this far, but the hunt was not yet over. Mira leaned back, her eyes closing briefly. "Tomorrow," she whispered, "we make our final move." Ryan nodded. "Tomorrow, we see if hope can reach across the stars." The storm had passed, but the real challenge was only beginning. Together, human and exiled princess would face the next trial, relying on trust, courage, and the fragile hope that two worlds could one day stand together. The frozen plateau was quiet under the stars, but the silence was deceptive. Ryan and Mira knew that the hunter's fleet had not given up. The sensors still showed activity at the edge of the canyon network. Every shadow of ice could hide enemies, and the slightest movement could give them away. Inside the ship, the temperature was stable, but Mira's energy was low. The royal core pulsed faintly, its power waning after the long maneuvers. Ryan checked the communication panel again. The signal he had sent to human space had traveled far, but he had no confirmation yet. Hours passed slowly as he waited, eyes on the radar, hands ready at the controls. Mira sat beside the glowing core, her body still weak but her mind sharp. "We cannot stay here forever," she said quietly. "The hunters will search every canyon and valley. If they find us, there is no escape." Ryan nodded. "Then we prepare for a quick jump. If help does not come soon, we'll have to leave before they reach us." Mira studied him with a faint smile. Your courage amazes me, human. Even in the face of certain danger, you remain calm. Ryan shrugged lightly. Calm is necessary when the cold and wind are ready to kill you. I've learned that much from this planet. They spent the next hour reinforcing the ship, sealing minor cracks and ensuring the engines could hold one final burst of power. Mira guided Ryan's hands, showing him how to channel the Royal Core's energy safely through the systems. Each adjustment drained her strength further, but she ignored it. Survival depended on their combined effort. Finally, the radar beeped again. A distant blip appeared, larger than the scouts they had evaded before. Ryan's eyes widened. That's not the hunters, he said, hope and relief mixing in his voice. It's human ships. They must have received my signal. Mira's silver eyes shone with faint excitement. Your people have come for you. We may escape yet. Ryan quickly relayed coordinates to the incoming fleet while Mira prepared the core for one last energy boost. The hunters' fleet was still out there searching, but they had a chance now. Ryan tightened his grip on the controls. We'll have to move fast before the hunters realize our position, he said. Mira nodded, though her energy was almost gone. I can give one final push. After that, I must rest. The Royal Core glowed brightly and the ship's engines roared as energy flowed through every system. Ryan guided the vessel down the canyon, weaving between jagged ice formations. Outside, the frozen cliffs reflected the light of the core, scattering signals to confuse the enemy sensors. The human fleet appeared over the horizon, massive ships of sleek silver and blue design. They scanned the valleys quickly, pinpointing the faint energy signature from Ryan's ship. A distant communication blip confirmed the rescue. Ryan allowed himself a small smile. We've made it this far, he said. Mira leaned against the core, her hands glowing faintly as she controlled the remaining energy. We must not stop yet, she whispered. The hunters are still near. One mistake could destroy everything. Ryan nodded. He pushed the ship harder, using the canyon network to hide and redirect the hunters. The ice walls and cliffs acted as natural shields, deflecting the enemy sensors. Behind them, the hunters' dark ships moved, searching relentlessly, unaware of the human fleet closing in from above. The first encounter happened unexpectedly. A small hunter ship dove down from the clouds, aiming directly at their vessel. Ryan twisted the controls, dodging the attack while Mira amplified the Royal Core's energy. A burst of blue light shot from the ship, creating a temporary shield that deflected the incoming fire. The hunter ship reeled back, confused, and retreated toward the main fleet. That bought us time, Ryan said, breathing hard. But we're not out of danger yet. Mira's face was pale and her voice weak. I cannot hold the energy much longer. We must reach the humans now. Ryan glanced at the radar. The fleet was close, signals moving steadily toward their position. Hold on, he said. Just a few more minutes. The hunters pursued them relentlessly, but the canyon network allowed Ryan to use sharp turns and sudden drops to confuse them. Each time Mira directed the energy, creating false signals to mislead the enemy. It was exhausting, but their coordination worked perfectly. Finally, they reached a wide plateau where the human fleet could land safely. Ryan lowered the ship, maneuvering past jagged ice cliffs. Mira's glow dimmed completely as the Royal Core drained its last reserves of energy. The vessel touched down gently and the landing pad secured firmly on the ice. Ryan exhaled deeply, unbuckling himself from the seat. Mira leaned against the wall, weak but alive. We have made it, he said softly. The human soldiers appeared from the landing craft, rushing to the small ship. They looked at the alien inside, stunned by her appearance. Ryan stepped forward quickly, explaining her situation. She is a Zarathian princess, exiled and in danger. We need to take her safely. One of the soldiers nodded. Understood. We'll secure the area. Mira looked at Ryan, her silver eyes filled with gratitude. You risked everything for me, she said quietly. I cannot thank you enough. Ryan shook his head. No thanks needed. We both survived because we worked together. That's enough. The soldiers helped Mira out of the ship, supporting her weak body. Ryan followed, keeping a protective eye on her as they walked toward the fleet. The hunters were still visible in the distance, retreating but not defeated. The human fleet formed a protective perimeter, shielding them from further attack. Inside the command ship, Ryan watched as the communication panel lit up. A voice spoke over the intercom. Ryan Thompson, we received your distress signal. You and the alien have been located. Prepare for extraction. He smiled faintly, relief flooding his body. "We've done it," he said softly. Mira stood beside him, her strength returning slowly as the human technology stabilized the Royal Core's energy. "You have changed my view of humans," Mira said, her voice steady now. "I once believed your kind was reckless and dangerous. You have proven me wrong." Ryan laughed lightly. "I've been called reckless before, but I guess it worked in our favor this time." The human officers prepared a small shuttle to take Mira safely to their medical bay. Ryan watched as she entered, the Royal Core secured and stabilized. Before she left, she turned toward him. "Ryan, you are brave beyond measure. If our worlds ever meet again, I hope humans like you will stand by my side." He nodded. "I'll be there, and maybe next time we can avoid a frozen planet." She smiled faintly, then stepped into the shuttle. The engines roared softly as it lifted off, heading toward the main fleet. Ryan followed in the human transport, leaving the icy planet behind. As the stars stretched across the sky, Ryan leaned back in his seat, exhausted but relieved. He thought of the frozen plains, the hunters, and the exiled princess who had risked everything to survive. For a moment, the galaxy felt smaller, more connected. Humans and Zerathians, two very different species, had survived together through courage, trust, and determination. Mira's voice came over the comm one last time. "Ryan, I will never forget your help. Our meeting may have been by chance, but our actions have changed the course of our lives. Perhaps one day humans and Zerathians can stand together instead of against each other." Ryan smiled, looking out at the stars. "I'll remember that too, and I'll make sure it happens." The frozen world below disappeared behind them, replaced by the vast expanse of space. For Ryan, it was a moment of triumph and hope. For Mira, it was the beginning of a new life, free from exile and fear. Together they had survived the impossible, proving that courage, determination, and trust could overcome even the deadliest challenges. Above them, the stars shone bright, as if the universe itself celebrated the victory of two unlikely allies who had fought, not just for survival, but for the future of two worlds. The hunters were gone, for now. The storm had passed, and Ryan and Mira looked forward to a new beginning, where hope and friendship could conquer fear and danger. The end.